And here we go again. And if you're watching, you can see I'm all by myself today, solo. Some technical difficulties, some couldn't make it. So I hope I won't be boring, be like some of those podcasts you listen to with just one guy talking and carrying on. So hopefully I can make it interesting for you. But I want you to remember that we provide these shows first and foremost for the watchers, those of you that are watching, for your entertainment. We are not by any means and do not claim to be scholars or experts in the topics we cover. We are simply enthusiasts and storytellers who have fun with these topics while respecting individual beliefs. And please remember that we are live and nothing is rehearsed or edited out later. What you see is what you get. So, because I'm by myself today, we're going to do things a little different. We are going to go right into the show. To the strange sightings. That's where we're going to start. And I want to see what you think about this.
Look at this thing. It's rotating. There's a whole fleet of them. Look on the ASA. My gosh. They're all going against the wind. The wind's 120 knots from the west.
Now, that video was just released yesterday by CNN, talking about some of the latest sightings that have been released by the government, the U.S. government, believe it or not. And, they're bringing up these unusual sightings that they've had. And these are some of the pictures of the things that they have. This is on file with the government at the Pentagon. It's things that they're actually investigating right now. And this is what they've seen. They call this one, I think that's the pyramid, isn't it? Yeah, that's the pyramid, and that's the sphere. That's what they were calling these. And this is the metallic blimp. I couldn't get a closer one. And this is the triangle that they have seen and just recently released these to the public. That one's kind of hard to see, but go back and look at these again. As I was researching these this morning, somebody had found a Batman balloon that was shaped like that, but I think this was a little bigger than a Mylar balloon. But the sphere actually looks like a balloon to me, but who knows? But the government is just releasing these. And I mean, I've said it before, if something is invading our space, I do want our military looking into it. Please check this out. What if it is a foreign government, an enemy government, using drones or something to spy on us? I want the government. And all the years of denial just didn't make sense to me. They did Project Blue Book and the Majestic 12 and all these different organizations that were secretive, but to the public they would deny, say it was swamp gas or a weather balloon and that kind of thing. But, to the public they would deny everything, but while they were secretly investigating, which, again, I wish they'd come right out and said, yes, we're investigating this, because they should be. I'm not saying that they need to investigate aliens or extraterrestrials. I'm saying they need to investigate these things that's flying in our air. I mean, granted, what if they are extraterrestrial? Then maybe we can learn from them. And they say that when they do investigate, it's a matter of national defense, and I don't have a problem with that. But one documentary I was watching called Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind, I believe it was the name of it. They were saying that the military saying this is trying to feed us all fear that this is all, if it is extraterrestrials, they could attack at any time and this kind of thing. But if we've been seeing them, just say the modern era since 1947, then why haven't they done anything? They've abducted some people, if you believe that then, but why haven't they attacked? If they're evil and, working on taking over the world. And people have an answer to that, saying, well, they're just working their way in, whatever. But anyway, that's our strange sightings file video for this week. And if you got any questions or comments, let me know. And let me know. I want to know what you think about it so that you can give your insight, because I don't have all the answers. That's why we do this show, because we're still looking for answers, all of us. So that strange sightings file video will be available on Patreon. And if you're a member there, you can see it. If not, you can join for as little as $3 a month. While we're talking about Patreon, where'd it go? Ooh, there it is. And if you're watching on YouTube, please like the video, please subscribe and sign up for notifications. All right. We'd certainly appreciate that. And share the videos while you're at it. On our YouTube page, we have a whole playlist of our sponsors. We call them our sponsors, but basically we're helping them. They're people that have been involved with the show in one form or another. So we made little ads, videos for them to support them for their help with us. And it reminded me while I was watching the YouTube and Patreon videos how I kind of they got, today I was going to be talking about the boom booms, and they've got, the loud, hard hitting bass. And so it's kind of a lead in, I guess, to this. And so while I'm at it, like I said, I'm going to try to keep it interesting. I hope I'm not too boring for those of you that are watching. I'm going to go over this information. We've spent a couple of weeks digging into this, and it's, oh, there's my wife. Hey, my beautiful wife, Lynn, has joined us. So we're going to get right into the show, and hopefully you'll stick with us.
Also tonight, another loud boom heard on the Gulf Coast, this time in Clark County.
New at 10, a mystery in Mesa. At least one neighborhood worried the loud bangs they've been hearing for weeks.
Well, tonight, the mystery everybody's talking about here along the Gulf Coast. What was that loud boom that shook houses all across our area? Well, tonight.
This is a breaking news update from Wavy News 10. I'm Tom Shad.
And I'm Anita Blanton. Tonight we are investigating reports of a loud boom heard across the area. Many of you have been reaching out to us on our phone lines here and on social media, reporting hearing and feeling the noise from Southern Virginia Beach.
Switching gears and back here at home, a big boom mystery to talk about here. A lot of you heard it or felt it in South Charlotte today. It was some sort of loud explosion that happened around 11 o'clock in the morning.
It's all about the boom boom. A loud sound reminiscent of a sonic boom, ordnance explosion, or massive fireworks display has been heard in locations around the country and around the world, sometimes accompanied by a flash of light, sometimes several booms in a row. Phone calls are made to local authorities and media outlets. Posts are made on social media. Witnesses stating that they've heard a loud sound. Some saw a flash of light, and others commented that their house shook, objects fell, and windows or mirrors were broken or cracked. While in a few cases, individuals have come forward claiming responsibility for these sounds, like Telluride, and, back when I was a kid, it was M80s. But in most instances, no one can determine the cause. Military in the bases declaim that they have had no flyovers. Meteorologists say that there's been nothing in the weather that could cause these sounds. And geologists are declaring that there's been no seismic activity. News outlets and officials have investigated. Go do a search on YouTube and you'll see how prevalent these booms have become. So what could it be? Join our strange journeys into these mysterious booms. I was telling Lynn earlier this morning that a few years ago, I had come across these booms, had experienced some where we live in South Alabama, and I could only find one or two. And when we started this show back last year, I was going to do a show on the booms, but could only find two or three. But as we began to prepare for this one, I found tons of them. I mean, they came in all over the place. Now, why did I title this show, It's All About the Boom Boom? Mainly because we're from the Mobile, Alabama area, and we have a thing here called Mardi Gras. You may have heard of it. It started here. Some people say as early as 1703. French soldiers were dancing around the campfire, singing Laissez le bon temps rouler and celebrating Mardi Gras. I don't know. But officially, Mobile has claimed to the originator of Mardi Gras. But that's what they call it down here. They call it the Boom Boom, and here's why. And that's what you hear at a Mardi Gras parade is boom, boom, all over the place. But we're talking about these mysterious booms in the sky, or skyquakes, as some have called them. Now, Wikipedia defines it as a phenomenon where a loud cannon, trumpet, or sonic boom sound is reported to originate from the sky. The sound can produce shock waves that vibrate a building or particular area. They've been heard in locations around the world, including the banks of the river Ganges, Marwari village in Himachal Pradesh, the East Coast in England, Finger Lakes of the United States, the Magic Valley in south central Idaho of the United States, Colombia, southern Canada, as well as areas of the North Sea, Japan, Australia, Italy. Oh, the list goes on and on, folks. The Netherlands, the UK, Brazil, Mexico, around the world. And some as recent as in the last few days. Let me see if I can find that one. Where was that one? Yeah, this was WCNC in Charlotte. Where'd that go? I think this is it. Yeah.
Switching gears and back here at home, a big boom mystery to talk about here. A lot of you heard it or felt it in South Charlotte today. It was some sort of loud explosion that happened around 11 o'clock in the morning. Now, we don't have a lot of details. We don't know the source of it quite yet, but we do know that Charlotte Fire actually reached out to our chief meteorologist, Brad Panovich, saying that they were getting flooded with 911 calls and folks asking if this was an earthquake. Now, Brad confirms it was not an earthquake, but actually 3 seismographs picked up whatever event this was. And as we mentioned, folks were feeling it as well. The shaking was so bad over at Myers Park High School. Students and staff could feel it. Administrators sending an audio message saying that they heard it, but it was nothing to worry about. Charlotte Fire tells us also that they could not locate the source of the boom. So the mystery continues. Of course, we'll keep you updated. We did send out a push alert as soon as folks heard that boom today, courtesy of our WCNC Charlotte News app. So don't forget, you can download it for free and just stay up to date on all the very latest happenings.
Okay, I didn't, edit out their little promo there at the end. So if you want to download their app, that's your business. But I do want to give them full credit. That was WCNC in Charlotte. But this was just from April the 15th, 2 days ago. They're hearing these booms. And it's been heard here in Mobile several times. Let's see. Where's it at? And this one was a pretty recent.
Also tonight, another loud boom heard on the Gulf Coast, this time in Clark County. Residents from Jackson to Thomasville describing what it was like tonight. One emailer says, "I've just heard a big boom. It shook my house, even knocked pictures down from my wall. A lot of other people have too." Another one reads, "It has shaken my daughter's house in the McVeigh community north of Jackson." Officials say low-flying jets have been circling tonight, and they may be responsible for that noise.
Now, this one, that one in Clark County was just a few months ago, February 9th, 2021. And the one that basically got me wanting to do this show was this one, I believe, from January 24th, 2020, just before, a few months before we started this show.
Well, tonight, the mystery everybody's talking about here along the Gulf Coast. What was that loud boom that shook houses all across our area? Well, tonight, there are all kinds of theories as to what caused the commotion. Folks all across the Gulf Coast took to social media to report the big boom. Bay Minette to Irvington, West Mobile, even over to Pascagoula. Some say it shook their homes. Some just heard a loud sound. Others said they didn't feel a thing. A seismogram from Bruton shows the shaking associated with the event. A seismograph at the University of South Alabama picked it up as well.
And right here is after 2 o'clock. Just after 2 o'clock, it's about 2:03, maybe about 30 seconds after 2:03. There's a little impulse right there, and then it immediately stops. So there's no lingering vibration or anything like that. So there was some sort of event that triggered some shaking of the ground.
NBC 15 checked with dispatchers in Mobile and Baldwin counties, as well as the Air Force, Coast Guard, and NASA. No one would tell us what happened. We asked the FAA if they had any information. A spokesperson told us to contact the military, saying the FAA doesn't comment on military flights. So far, no agency is claiming knowledge about the loud noise. We've seen several posts on social media with guesses about the noise. Many people think it was some kind of sonic boom, the sound when an object breaks the sound barrier. There was a rocket engine test at Stennis Space Center on the Mississippi Gulf Coast today, but it was hours after the event here. SpaceX launched a satellite from Kennedy Space Center in Florida, but that was 45 minutes after the boom was heard here. NASA has recently been testing flight maneuvers to create quieter sonic booms. Those tests are around the Galveston area, hundreds of miles from here. But we can't rule out that possibility. Others pointed to an earthquake that happened around the same time. That was a magnitude 6.3 quake in the South Sandwich Islands on the other side of the world, closer to Antarctica than the Gulf Coast. So did you hear or feel the big boom this afternoon? Do you have an idea what it is? We want to hear from you. Leave your comments on this story at facebook.com/mynbc15.
All right. I'm sorry. That was the report from November 15th, 2018 on MyNBC 15. This was the one from January of last year that got me started wanting to do a show on it, where they actually broke in live when this happened. And they're standing in the newsroom. It's not part of a newscast. And this was the one from January 24th of last year.
Hi, everybody. Bill Riles, WKRG News 5. We are following reports of a loud boom in the West Mobile County area. This boom heard from the Grand Bay, Theodore to Tillman's Corner area, all the way into Spring Hill Avenue in Mobile, and as far as Loosedale in Mississippi. So we're trying to track down exactly what it was. At this point, we checked the USGS, U.S. Geological Survey website. We do know earthquake has not been reported there. We've taken several calls, though. One lady on Highway 188 in Grand Bay called, said her whole house shook. Devin, you took some calls, too.
Yeah, in fact, I just had a friend text me from the Spring Hill area of Mobile that she felt it as well. I talked to a guy who lives, and I'm writing up a story for the web right now, who lives in Wilmer in the Timberland North subdivision. He said that the house started shaking for 3 or 4 seconds. He thought maybe the washing machine was off balance, you know, when it starts shaking like that.
Yeah.
So his wife said, well, is it the wind? So he goes outside, he checks the trees, there's no wind, it's a sunny day. So nobody really knows what this is, and that's what we're trying to figure out at this point. The phones have been ringing, the emails are coming in, the texts are coming in. We've got to figure out what this
Here's the
is.
phone. Now, one possibility that we've thought of, and that is that it could be a sonic boom. It's not unprecedented that some military planes out over the Gulf of Mexico have sort of put the pedal to the metal, so to speak, and that creates a sonic boom. So we're going to investigate that. We'll find out, to turn over every avenue to try to find out what this loud boom was. For now, Bill Riles
And Devin Walsh.
I think it's interesting that they checked with the United States Geological Survey. And then the previous video from NBC 15 had talked to the seismologists at the university. And even though there was no, I guess you could say, no earthquake activity or no seismic activity, the one guy said there was an event that shook the earth. And so something happened. And then, let's see, Wavy TV in Virginia Beach, Virginia on April 29th, 2019.
This is a breaking news update from Wavy News 10. I'm Tom Schaff.
And I'm Anita Blanton. Tonight we are investigating reports of a loud boom heard across the area. Many of you have been reaching out to us on our phone lines here and on social media, reporting hearing and feeling the noise from Southern Virginia Beach, Chesapeake, Portsmouth, even Suffolk and Norfolk.
Now, this happened at around 6:30 this evening. After we finished up our 6 o'clock newscast, we've reached out to the Navy to figure out if it was a sonic boom from a jet. Both NAS Oceana and the Navy Auxiliary Landing Field Fentress are both in the areas where a lot of callers reported hearing that noise. There have been no major injuries reported at this point.
That's right. We have a crew headed to the Sandbridge area. From the Sandbridge area, we're hearing reports of EMS heading into that direction and the possibility of a fire in that area. But that's all unconfirmed at this point. The U.S. Geological Survey shows no earthquakes were recorded, and Dominion Energy's power outage map also shows no major outages.
This information is still coming in. We're working the phones on our assignment desk in our newsroom. Join us over on wavy.com for the latest updates on this story.
And we'll see you back here tonight at 10 and 11.
And it sounds like they broke in for that report as well, because they were saying it happened after their first broadcast, and then they're saying at the end, join us later. That these things are happening, and it's just not one witness. It's multitudes of witnesses, hundreds of people. Like here in Mesa, Arizona on December 29th, just this past year, December 29th, 2020. Now, isn't that wild? Okay. Did I play everything? Let's see. Yep. No, I played that one. Yep. That's all the news reports I had, in which there are more. Like I said earlier, if you go on YouTube and just type in mysterious booms, there's tons of them from all over. A real interesting one was in India that I watched, and the lady was reporting on it. And same thing. Contact the Air Force, anybody that flies jets, and they're all saying, nope, we're not flying today. They contact the geological folks that study, seismic activity. Nope, there's been no seismic activity. They contact meteorologists. Nope, there's been no weather activity. Now, could they be lying? Could they be covering up? That's always a possibility, especially when it comes to the military, And here on the Gulf Coast, like one of the newscasters mentioned, we have stuff going on over the coast, over the Gulf, almost daily. We have 2 Air Force bases, at least 2 within an hour to east or west of us, and we have several airfields in the area that fly jets. So, but everybody denies it. So, it's just amazing that everybody's that's investigating this is coming across the same thing. Nobody knows what it is. They know what it sounds like. Now, James Fenimore Cooper in 1850 wrote, 1850, it is a sound resembling the explosion of a heavy piece of artillery that can be accounted for by none of the known laws of nature. The report is deep, hollow, distant, and imposing. The lake seems to speak to the surrounding hills, which send back the echoes of its voice in an accurate reply. No satisfactory theory has ever been broached to explain the noises. Interesting enough, this phenomena is heard all over the world, and most predate any form of artillery or modern aircraft that could create a sonic boom. That was at Lake Seneca, New York, that James Fenimore Cooper was talking about the lake gun. And the Seneca booms, they've been called the Seneca guns, and the sound would be named the lake gun after the writing of the story by James Fenimore Cooper. You've heard of him. He wrote The Last of the Mohicans. Now, while some claim that Cooper's story was political satire, he got the Native American lore correct. For at least 200 years, the booms were tied with a tree that was floating in the lake. It had been uprooted at some point. The roots remained below water, and the top above with just the right amount of balance that it stayed that way without sinking. And legend said that the tree was a chief that had tried to make the people greater than their gods. His punishment was to float in the lake for all eternity. Each time the tree would sit on the shore for too long, the Indians believed the gods would cause the booming sound to remind him to return to the water. Another early theory was that the lake had a deep chasm well below the water level that contained an air pocket, and when the pocket would suddenly fill with water, the sound would occur. It would continue for weeks as the pocket emptied again. But supposedly there's no chasm below the lake surface. A study revealed to the American Geological Society looked at the phenomena going back to 1990. The scientists attempted to match up the sound with known earthquakes, thunderstorms, sonic booms from planes, and other known events. Their answer? They don't know what's causing the sound, but believe that it must be atmospheric anomalies and not caused by anything earthbound. One theory they put forth claims that the sound is created by space rocks that hit the Earth's atmosphere so hard that they create an explosion that echoes off the Earth. Now, Heyoka, an old Sioux Indian legend, says that Heyoka is a clown god represented by, he's riding on a white horse that's covered in polka dots. He's best known for doing everything backwards. If it's cold outside, he'll strip down naked and complain how hot it is. If there's a famine, he'll tell everyone how full he is. The Sioux also place him as one of the gods of thunder and lightning. However, when he produces thunder and lightning, it comes from the ground and goes to the sky. Now, this is an ancient Indian legend from the Sioux. So it's interesting that in the modern era, we've learned that some cases lightning actually does come from the ground to the sky. In the Lakota tradition, he uses the wind like sticks to beat the drum of thunder. Now, how many of you ever heard of Lewis and Clark? Some of you, I'm sure. If you're watching, we'd appreciate a comment. Let us know where you're at and what your thoughts are on these mysterious booms. But I found something interesting. Meriwether Lewis of Lewis and Clark wrote this. Let's see, repeatedly. Well, he wrote it on July the 4th, 1805, that since their arrival at the Great Falls of the Missouri River on June 13th, they had, in his words, repeatedly witnessed a noise which proceeds from a direction a little to the north of west, as loud and resembling precisely the discharge of a piece of ordnance of 6 pounds at the distance of 3 miles. He must have heard that a few times to be able to be that precise. He goes on to say, I was informed of it by the men several times before I paid any attention to it, thinking it was thunder, and most probably which they had mistaken or thought it to be. At length, walking in the plains the other day, I heard this noise very distinctly. It was perfectly calm, clear, and not a cloud to be seen. I am at a loss to account for this phenomenon, he mused. But he reassured himself with the confidence of a true son of the age of enlightenment. I have no doubt, but if I had leisure, I could find from whence it issued. On July 11, Lewis recorded 2 more discharges of this unaccountable artillery of the Rocky Mountains. He recalled that the Pawnee and Arikara Indians far down the Missouri had mentioned just such a mysterious noise coming from the Black Hills in South Dakota. But he had paid no attention, supposing the rumor to either be false or the phantom of a superstitious imagination. The trader Jean Vallet, whose house is at the mouth of the Cheyenne River they visited the previous October, had also told them that near the river's sources in the Black Hills, a great noise is heard frequently. So this is not a new phenomenon. This was being heard long before there were jet planes breaking the sound barrier. William Clark summarized Lewis's notes on the matter. It is probable, he added, that the large river just above those great falls, which heads in the direction of the noise, has taken its name Medicine River, today is the Sun River, from this unaccountable rumbling sound, which, like all accountable things with the Indians of the Missouri, is called medicine. After the expedition ended, there was some more discussion about it between Clark and Nicholas Biddle, the editor of the history of the expedition. On December 20th, 1810, Clark wrote to Biddle, I think I mentioned having heard a rumbling noise at the falls of the Missouri, which was not accounted for, and you accounted for them by simulating them or comparing them to the avalanches of the Alps. Biddle must have had second thoughts about his own suggestion, however, for no such notion appeared in the history, which was published in 1814. Now, that information is from the lewis-clark.org website. They're actually posting it on there. Excuse me. Mystery. There's a site I came across called mysterybooms.com. And hasn't been updated in a while. We tried to get the author of this this website on our show, but never hadn't heard back from him. But then I found out later, sometimes it takes him a couple of weeks to get back with people. And I just found out about it last week. So he just hasn't had a chance to get back with us. Now, they state that the history of the booms for centuries, reports of mysterious sounds of the unexplained origin have been documented around the world. Among these reports of various mystery sounds, many reports of what are frequently described as mystery booms have been documented throughout history, particularly along the eastern coast of the United States. However, such noises, as well as a phenomenon that may be related to them, are not exclusive to this region. Dr. Gordon MacDonald, an American geophysicist and former member of the President's three-man council on the environmental quality, uncovered a letter from 1906 which documented reports of booms that occurred seemingly in conjunction with foreshocks that preceded the Great San Francisco earthquake of that same year. Similar reports were documented in Charleston, South Carolina in 1883, as well as in Turkey. Also in 1883, reports of loud noises were documented along with the rain of a strange ash-like substance over Queenstown, South Africa in November of that year. So weird stuff's been coming in from all over. It says, let's see. Now, one of our ATs, Beth White, saw a show, watched a show just this past week. It actually aired back last October. It's the show Phantom Signals on the Science Channel. And their very first episode, guess what topic they chose? The mysterious booms. They talked about a loud boom in North Alabama on November 14th, 2017. People in 15 counties called 911 about the sound. It was described as a loud boom, cannon from the sky, or an earthquake. The National Weather Service, NASA, and the United States Geological Survey could not explain it. Again, here we go again. Nobody can explain what this boom is. Atmospheric scientist Karen Kosiba describes as a very loud noise that has no obvious source, but it can set off a car alarm, shatter windows, and scare the crap out of people under a clear sky. And they're heard all over the planet. There's really no single explanation there. People have different theories, and we're going to go over some of those in a minute. But the most prevalent one is sonic booms. How cool is that? that cone of, I guess it's condensed air and the condensation coming from it. On a side note, Chuck Yeager was the first human to fly in a plane faster than the speed of sound and break the sound barrier in the X-1 on October the 14th, 1947. I found this cool newsreel.
In October 1947, at Muroc Desert Test Center in California, history is made by this aircraft, the XS-1, and its pilot, Captain Charles E. Yeager. This airplane and this pilot are about to be the first ever to fly faster than the speed of sound in level flight. A B-29 will take the XS-1 aloft and launch her at an altitude of about 35,000 feet. The XS-1 is not a military aircraft, but a flying research laboratory designed to test the effects of supersonic flight upon airplanes. It is powered by 4 rocket engines. Its weight empty is less than 5,000 pounds, but it carries 8,000 pounds of fuel. B-29s have done a lot of memorable things, but none of them ever before had a mission quite like this one. And no airplane ever did what the XS-1 is about to do. Cracking the sound barrier in level flight will be more than a spectacular feat. It will also give the Air Force valuable knowledge of the resources of new propulsive systems. Captain Yeager gets aboard the XS-1. It can't be a long flight he's going to have in the little aircraft. At full power, the flight can't last more than 2.5 minutes. But it's going to be a fast one. Radar crews are ready, too, to do the timing. The only possible method for timing aircraft at extremely high altitudes. There she goes. A big moment in a history-making flight. Now she's approaching the barrier. The speed of sound at 35,000 feet is 660 miles per hour. The really big moment. Through the sound barrier. The first time ever in level flight. For the first time, except in dive, a man has flown an airplane faster than the speed of sound. It earned Captain Yeager many honors, and the historic plane, the XS-1, earned the resting place in the Tectonic Institution.
Yeah, that was a Smithsonian newsreel. Got one of the watchers chimed in. It's crazy to me that these booms have been happening for so long. I assumed they were relatively newer phenomena. Fascinating. Well, thank you, Melanie, for commenting on that. You're right. It's fascinating. Yeah, when I came across the Lewis and Clark journal there where they were talking about it, it just kind of blew my mind. I was like, holy cow. I mean, the loudest sound ever heard, supposedly ever recorded, was Krakatoa. Oh, shoot, when was that? I got it here in my notes somewhere. Dun, 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 dun. I had it in my notes. Back in the 1800s, the sound was heard all the way across the planet. And let's see. That was the last one. But yeah, there's Chuck Yeager breaks the sound barrier October 14th, 1947. Amazing man. Now, see, this is a breakdown of a sonic boom. That yellow part being the boom itself, where the plane breaks through. That's one of the opinions. But that's what's interesting about these booms, is that when confronted, the Air Force, Navy, whoever may be flying jets, they say they've had no flyovers. So why would they lie? I mean, nobody's accusing them of anything.
Well, if they're testing new airplanes, then and they tell us about it, then the rest of the world hears it. So there goes the secrecy. I mean, think what would have happened if we'd have told the world about the stealth bomber before the,
Well, I understand that, and I don't have a problem with their secrecy, but normally they do that in unpopulated areas where a sonic boom wouldn't affect anybody, And I mean, these are in populated areas. And from what I understand, they're supposed to let everybody know when they're going to be doing something that would cause a sonic boom, in case there's the rattling and all that. I could be wrong, but I thought they were supposed to tell us, and that any secret stuff would be out away from everybody. I don't know. Now, that reminded me in sometime in the 80s, I was working at a little shipyard down in Pascagoula, where it was a small shipyard, and I was head of security. And I stepped out of our guard shack one day and was on the front step of this little guard shack. And when I heard a loud boom that shook everything and rattled the windows, and I mean, it shook the step I was on, and it kind of buckled my knees. It was so loud and forceful. And I just assumed it was a sonic boom. But of course, I never looked into it. But I've experienced what everybody else has experienced in that. And Beth, the news story I told you about on January 24th, 2020, last year, Beth actually remembered that, and she wrote down for us her what she could remember of her experience. She said, I had a personal experience with a boom on January 24th, 2020. I was at work in my office at a local college in Mobile, Alabama. I heard a rumble that got louder, and it sounded like something was about to come through the wall of my office. I half expected to see a tank or semi or airplane come through the wall. The college is near Mobile Regional Airport. For all I knew, it was the end of me. A woman I worked with was in the office with me, and we were both confused and wondered what in the world was going on. I checked my Facebook and saw that people in Mississippi where I live heard it as well. Apparently, it was only heard from Ocean Springs, Mississippi to West Mobile, Alabama. No thunderstorms around, so the NWS had no clue, National Weather Service. The USGS, U.S. Geological Survey, claims no earthquakes. South Alabama has had minor ones before. The military didn't have any exercises going on out in the Gulf of Mexico, or at least not that they would admit. So no explanation. She said, I have felt that before at my house in Hurley, Mississippi. It rumbled and shook my house. It started low, came to a crescendo, then went low and away. I wonder if I had felt my first earthquake. But the USGS had no activity in South Mississippi. I've heard sonic booms, and this did not remind me of them. I would like to be outside to hear the next one so I can hear an actual boom, see if there's any rumbling outside or just the boom. And that's the unusual thing about these sounds that people report. Sometimes there is a flash of light. Most times there's not, but it shakes everything around them like an earthquake. And again, going back to that video where the geologist was looking at the seismograph, and his words were, there was an event that shook the ground. He didn't say that the ground shook and caused an event. He says an event shook the ground.
I remember back in 89 or 90, we had an event that shook everything. It shook my house. My iron fell off, and it busted the glass top on my stove. I had heard at the time that it was an earthquake, but we don't have earthquakes in Mobile, And I had been inside a building, so I didn't hear the noise, but whatever it was shook my entire house.
Yeah. Well, earthquakes can be possible anywhere, but I've never known of this area having earthquakes. And when I live in Tennessee, I was told that there were a couple of earthquakes, but I never experienced anything. And there's a fault line. I think it's called the Missouri fault line, goes through Tennessee, but I don't remember experiencing anything. I remember being in a church service one day, and afterwards the guy that was in the back doing the sound says, "Man, did you feel that rumbling? We had a minor earthquake." After, I'm like, "No." So now, along with the mysterious booms, the Mental Floss website brings up 9 strange sounds that cannot be explained. One is called the upsweep. It's an unidentified sound that's existed at least since the Pacific Marine Environmental Laboratory began recording what they call SOSUS, an underwater sound surveillance system with listening stations around the world that they started in 91. The sound consists of a long train of narrow band upsweeping sounds of several seconds duration each. The source location is difficult to identify, but it's in the Pacific around the halfway point between Australia and South America. And they say upsweep changes with the seasons, becoming loudest in spring and autumn, though it isn't clear why. But the leading theory is that it's related to volcanic activity. Then there's the whistle. It was recorded on July the 7th, 1997, and only one hydrophone, that's an underwater microphone, only one hydrophone picked it up. The location is unknown, and limited information has made it difficult to speculate the source. And then there's the bloop. It's the big kahuna in unexplained sounds. I've seen segments on this in different documentaries and such. In 1997, an extremely powerful ultra-low frequency sound was detected at various listening stations thousands of miles apart and traced to somewhere west of the southern tip of South America. The sound only lasted about a minute and was heard repeatedly over the summer, but not since. Bloop is generally believed to be the sound of a massive ice quake, but scientists haven't totally ruled out the possibility that it could be originating from something organic. Now, this is where it gets eerie. If an animal was the source of bloop, it would have to be larger than a blue whale. The most fanciful of all theories stems from the fact that the bloop's location is somewhat close to author H.P. Lovecraft's fictional sunken city of R'lyeh, or however you say that, R'lyeh, where the creature known as Cthulhu lies, dead but dreaming. Cthulhu, if I'm pronouncing that right, I think everybody pronounces it different, can be described as part man, part dragon, and part octopus, which seems as likely as the source of any of the ocean's greatest auroral anomaly. But there's also another sound called Julia. I don't know why they call it Julia. They didn't explain. It was recorded on March the 1st, 1999, lasted roughly for 15 seconds, and was loud enough to be heard by the entire equatorial Pacific Ocean hydrophone array. An Antarctic iceberg run aground is the leading suspect for its source. Then there's the slowdown. It was first recorded on May 19, 1997. It's also credited to an iceberg running aground, though some people insist it might be a giant squid. That sound lasted about 7 minutes. It gradually decreased in frequency, hence the name slowdown. Like upsweep, the sound has been periodically since it was initially detected. And then there's the hum, which has been recorded on several occasions, mostly during the last 50 years or so. In these cases, there have been reports of a relentless and troubling low-frequency humming noise that can only be heard by a certain portion of the population. Yes, some people's hearing can get some of those lower frequencies. Yeah, I've seen documentaries on this. Now, it's difficult to pinpoint when the instances of the hum began, but it's been well documented since the 1970s. And since then, cases have popped up all over the world, from Ontario to Canada to Taos, New Mexico to Bristol, England to Scotland and Auckland, New Zealand. And in most cases, the affected group only makes up around 2% of the population. But for those individuals, the hum is inescapable, but impossible to track. And those affected report that they've never having heard the noises before, and they say the hum is generally heard indoors and becomes louder at night. It's also most common in rural and suburban areas and among people between the age of 55 and 70. So I should be able to pick that up now if I've got that quirk in my hearing. And then there's skyquakes, which we're talking about today. Then there's the UVB-76, also known as the buzzer. It's been showing up on shortwave radios for decades. It broadcasts at 4625 kilohertz, and after repeating buzzing noises, a voice occasionally reads numbers and names in Russians. The source and purpose has never been determined. Though they did find, I think, a broadcast station in Russia, but is inaccessible. I'd have to go back and watch the documentary I saw on it now. And then there's the 52 hertz whale. This animal, also known as the loneliest whale in the world, calls at a highly unusual 52 hertz, well above the normal frequency. Scientists have been listening to 52 hertz for decades, and recently filmmakers raised $400,000 on Kickstarter to seek the mammal out. It should be noted that the fundraiser reached its goal through the help of Leonardo DiCaprio, another mysterious beast. So now, I wanted to close out today. I wanted to go through several, reportings of the booms, the history, though we really didn't go in. We didn't do a deep dive into the history, just a couple of things from Indian lore, Lewis and Clark, James Fenimore Cooper. But I wanted you to realize that this has been going on for several hundred years, if not more. And many of that, there were reportings. I have to bite my tongue and say sightings because most of the time you don't see it. I was watching one news report on YouTube, and they said, we had a sighting of the booms last night. And one reporter was like, one witness to the sighting of the boom, but there was nothing to see. But anyway, so a lot of these reportings of these booms were before jet planes, before they had explosives. It was still being out there. All right. On Wikipedia, they have a whole list of possible causes of these loud booms. They've been explained as coronal mass ejection. Coronal mass ejection, CMEs, often generate shock waves similar to what happens when an aircraft flies at speeds higher than the speed of sound. The solar winds equivalent of a sonic boom can accelerate protons up to millions of miles per minute, millions of miles per minute, as much as 40% of the speed of the light. So when you've seen those solar flares, when the sun, a portion of the sun blows off, that's the coronal mass ejection. And they're saying that this could cause technically a sonic boom, but meteors entering the atmosphere can cause sonic booms. Though I guess that could show up on radar. I'm not sure. Gas escaping from vents in the Earth's surface. With lakes, biogas from decaying vegetation is trapped beneath the lake bottoms, suddenly bursting forth. This is plausible since Cayuga Lake and Seneca Lake are two large and deep lakes. Though when we talked about Lake Seneca earlier in the show, some of the information we came over was that Seneca Lake did not have any caverns. Military aircraft, okay, that can explain, these booms heard before the jet flight age, before supersonic flight. Doesn't really explain those. Or if, there were no flyover. In some cases, they've been associated with earthquakes. Earthquakes may not hold as a general cause because their sounds are often accompanied by seismic activity other than the vibrations induced by sound. Like the guy we mentioned earlier said, an event caused the ground to shake. The ground shaking didn't cause a loud event. So usually if it was an earthquake, there will be seismic activity. And there have been reports of booms just before an earthquake hit, like we talked about earlier with the great San Francisco earthquake, where booms were reported seconds before it hit. In North Carolina, one speculation is that they are sounds of the pieces of the continental shelf falling off into the Atlantic abyss. However, the Atlantic abyss is too far away from the East Coast. And the Atlantic ridge is the result of a very slow-moving tectonics and could not produce such sound, given how often they occur. Underwater caves, resonance from solar or earth magnetic activity, volcanic eruptions, avalanches, distant thunder. This is one, distant thunder being focused anonymously. Not anonymously like we didn't know, but you got to say it backwards, anomalously, where they're not sure how it happens, but the sound waves, because of the weather patterns, the sound waves can bounce and go a different way. And I heard one expert, meteorologist, say that sonic booms from far away were bouncing off the clouds or something like that and being heard in a different location, which I guess that's possible. Sound waves do bounce. But, this is one of those topics where anything could be explained away. But at the same time, you take away all the variables and what's left. Some people have said that UFOs are playing around causing sonic booms in our atmosphere. If they're real, then that's a possibility. But, just like in our strange sighting segment earlier, they didn't talk about them. Excuse me. Didn't talk about them causing sonic booms. They just saw them. I have heard of instances where witnesses saw an unusual craft in the air take off at such a speed that it did cause a sonic boom. So there's always that. But we're going to go ahead and close it out today. I've gone over about all the material that we had, and I would encourage you, if this interests you, to get on YouTube and just do a search for mysterious booms, and you'll find them all over the place. And if you are watching this on YouTube, please subscribe and like us, like the videos on there. If you're watching on Facebook, just share this video, like it, and tell people about it. And I hope this has been entertaining. And Lynn, any final thoughts?
I forgot to turn my microphone back on. I have heard sonic booms when space shuttle will be coming back in. It'd break through in Texas and land in Pensacola, and we'd see the light go over just before the boom hit,
Right.
But there have been quite a few of them in my lifetime that I didn't see anything come over. You just heard a noise. It's like, okay, right. What was that?
Yep. And that's what we're talking about. But it's most people, that hear them are going to, look up in the sky and say, what was that? And if they didn't see anything, they're going to go on about their business. But there's been, those people that call in and report it. Now, if it is close, like in Beth's sense, she said it felt like the walls were about to fall down.
Mm-hmm.
And the news stations getting all the phone calls. Police stations have gotten phone calls. I
remember a lot of different reports on the news where they'd say, did you hear this? We've had lots of reports of it today,
right.
And this happened here at the station,
Mm-hmm.
But they couldn't really explain, just like earlier, Devin Walsh said, we're trying to figure out what it is.
Yeah. And from all their investigative inquiries, they can't get anywhere, and Beth's talking about the show she watched. They contacted people. One of these news stations contacted NASA. They contacted the Air Force. They contacted the Navy. They contacted everybody. What is there to deny? If they are flying over, so what? Why not? Why? I don't understand why they would want to keep that secret. Why not just say, yeah, we had a jet fly over at such and such time. Well, that was the time we heard the boom. Okay, cool. That's what it was. But in most of these cases, they're saying, no, we didn't have any planes in the area. If it was a covert training mission, that's usually done away from from populated areas.
I think sometimes the military is so used to saying no, that's just their automatic go-to answer.
Well, yeah, there's that too, plausible deniability. No, I don't know anything. In which that's always a possibility. Now, I'm going to close with a thought from Gaia.com has an article called Mysterious Booms Heard Around the World, Leaving People Perplexed. It was written by Tasha Shane on July the 10th, 2019. And it goes, while it may be tempting to dismiss the myriad reports of mysterious booms as insignificant, or even flippantly attribute them to improbable causes, but to those who have been shaken out of their beds by these sky-splitting sounds, there's still a puzzle begging to be solved. Right now, all they have are questions. What's the source of so much chaos? Will it happen again? Is the government hiding something from us? Perhaps most importantly is the question of whether this is just the beginning of something much bigger that we should all be preparing for now. It's kind of heavy. All right, guys. Thank y'all for hanging out. I hope it hadn't been boring for you with me going over all this information, but I appreciate you being here. This is for you, the watchers. You're watching, and so we appreciate it. Again, thank you guys for being here, from Lynn and myself. We appreciate it. In 2 weeks, we've got special guest Elizabeth Parker back to talk about her stories, her writing, her books, stories that she's uncovered. And from her 2 books, Haunted Mobile and The Waterline, and Return to the Haunted Mobile. So she's going to be back telling us some ghost stories on the next show. So y'all be with us, okay? I appreciate y'all being here.
She's cool, so you don't want to miss it.
Yeah, you don't want to miss it. This is she'll be be the 3rd time she's been on the show. So it's going to be great. She's an amazing, fun guest. So we look forward to it. So see you in 2 weeks, guys. Bye-bye.